Tonight, cabinet overhaul.
We always have to do a better job in communicating.
Doug Ford says a shuffle will solve his government's messaging missteps. But is that really the problem? Did Justin Trudeau get what he came for in Washington? At Issue is here with all the politics.
It's a really neat project.
And one Manitoba community's environmental success story. Plus, the federal minister defends her climate plan. This is The National. What a difference a year makes. Last June, the Prime Minister and the U.S. President were trading barbs over trade and tariffs. But today in Washington, a cordial meeting and measured words. Of course, each wants the other's help. For Trump on NAFTA ratification and for Trudeau on a complicated relationship with China. Evan Dyer looks beyond the improved optics to see what was accomplished.
Justin Trudeau. He's been a friend of mine.
The unpredictable U.S. president seemed to be in a good mood, but wasn't too optimistic when I asked him about the prospects of ratifying the new free trade deal before Congress breaks for the summer.
When USMCA is ratified, sir, will that be the end?
Don't say when.
When it is ratified.
Don't say when, because so far I have to get the Democrats to approve it.
To help with that, Justin Trudeau also met the most powerful Democrat, Nancy Pelosi. Her party's reluctant to ratify the new deal and give Donald Trump a victory, with just 13 sitting days left.
Right now, we're going to have a catastrophe if this doesn't pass. I mean, there are tens of millions of jobs at stake.
But even if it's ratified, Mexico and Canada still face U.S. challenges.
If there's transshipping, I'll call Justin, and I'm sure he'll take care of it. And if he doesn't I'll probably call him a second time, and if he doesn't, then we'll have to talk, right? But I think that that situation's very well taken care of.
Transshipping, foreign countries using Canada as a backdoor to ship goods into the U.S., isn't a major issue right now, but Trump's answer on tariffs fell short of a definitive no, never again. For his part, Trudeau also wants the White House to lean harder on China to free the 2 Canadians held there. Vice President Mike Pence called for their immediate release when he was in Ottawa last month. But Canada would really like the president himself to raise it with Xi Jinping.
Anything I can do to help Canada, I will be doing.
What's your message on Broadway to Canada?
Excuse me?
Are you planning to bring it up with President Xi when you meet with him?
I would, at Justin's request, I will absolutely bring that up.
Trump, Trudeau, and Xi are all heading to Japan next week for the Group of 20 summit, where the world's 2 most powerful leaders have arranged a momentous meeting. And the Trudeau government will be hoping that Trump keeps his promise and raises Canada's issues as well as his own. Evan Dyer, CBC News, Washington.
The Prime Minister also met with U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi today to talk trade and jobs. But beforehand, there was the matter of settling a little bet.
As I promised, products of the great state of California, starting with chocolate, almonds, walnuts, pistachios, and wine.
The two had wagered over the NBA Finals, with each promising the other some delicacies from home. And since the Raptors won, spoiler alert, the PM collected. Though he graciously brought gifts for his vanquished opponent, including some popular Nova Scotia chocolate made by former Syrian refugees. Now back to this country and an extraordinary shakeup in the Ontario government. Premier Doug Ford, after barely a year of majority rule, has demoted a number of prominent ministers while increasing the size of cabinet by 1/3. Here's Ford's original team, 21 ministers, 7 of them women. Now it's grown to 28 members with 2 additional women. Vic Fedeli was bumped from finance after taking heat for spending cuts hidden in his first budget. Lisa MacLeod had been the public face of reduced funding for autism treatment, now also demoted. Lisa Thompson leaves the education portfolio, where a plan to increase some class sizes had generated controversy. Her replacement, Stephen Lecce, is a rookie politician, but a seasoned political communicator. He worked behind the scenes for a long time for Stephen Harper. Ford says his government's big problem has been poor communication with voters, but as Vic Adopia shows us, it's not his only one.
A moment of truth with a sample size bigger than any opinion poll. The love-in for the Raptors. Enough love even for politicians, with one exception.
Doug Ford!
Booze for Ford, and now the boot for some of his most senior cabinet ministers, 2 months after a deeply unpopular budget.
I think we always have to do a better job in communicating, and we will do a better job in communicating our successes.
Those successes, like record job numbers, he says, are being drowned out by public sector unions and other interests, bemoaning what they've lost.
A sense of entitlement with the taxpayers' money for the last 15 years.
Doug Ford is throwing his cabinet under the bus for his cuts.
How you doing?
Cuts that weren't supposed to happen. Ford promised to rein in spending and slash taxes without laying anyone off. The cuts came quickly to student grants, drug coverage, even autism services, leaving ministers struggling to explain.
And you're too afraid to face us because you're failing kids across the province.
Then there was the choreographed video campaign by MPPs, including the now demoted Attorney General Caroline Mulroney, promoting privatization of alcohol sales.
Able to stop into your local convenience store to buy beer and wine.
The government is, if not panicking, in somewhat disarray about its declining polling numbers.
At most, he says, the shuffle could reset soured relations between ministers and the people they're supposed to serve. But better communications may not fix Ford's unpopularity.
The more we have people who are expert in communications, it seems there's less and less trust in government.
Ford is under pressure to rebuild that trust. His federal cousins know anti-conservative sentiment could hurt their chances in the fall election. Vic Adopia, CBC News, Toronto.
Okay, let's turn now to Mike Crawley. He covers Ontario politics for CBC News. So obviously the Vic Fideli move seems like the biggest one. What should we make of that?
It is a really big deal. Rosemary, we've done the research. It doesn't seem that we can find any other example of a Canadian premier or prime minister shuffling their finance minister, dumping their finance minister after just one budget. And when I first heard the rumblings that Vic Fideli could be shoved out, there were several Tories who told me that that would not happen because it would send a message of panic. Well, now it's happened. And you've now got this contradiction because Ford got rid of his finance minister, yet he's still defending his budget. And his tone today from Doug Ford was unapologetic, like as if the only problem with the budget was how it got communicated.
So does this facelift, will it help? Is it going to be enough?
You know, ordinary people don't actually care who the faces are in cabinet. They see Doug Ford very much as the face of this government. And Ford's not giving any sense that he's actually going to change the direction of his policies. And I heard people talk about this in a call-in show today, people from across Ontario, people who voted PC. There's also the risk that Ford has of having dumped these senior cabinet ministers, that he risks losing their loyalty. And if in a year from now their poll numbers are still low or get worse, the knives could come out. They'd be in the middle of their mandate, and if MPPs and ministers feel their seats are at risk going into an election, they're going to start looking around and thinking, it's not the cabinet that's a problem, it's Doug Ford that's a problem.
Okay, Mike Crawley, thanks for this. Going to keep you busy. A very sophisticated and very expensive U.S. military surveillance drone was shot down by Iran this morning. Tehran claims it was acting in self-defense. Washington called it an unprovoked attack. And now there are fears that tensions could boil over into open conflict. So let's go back to Washington, where Ellen Morrow has more on what happened and how both sides are now responding.
Go ahead. Question?
With that, reporters pelted President Trump with the question of the day. Will the U.S. retaliate against Iran?
Iran made a big mistake. This drone was in international waters.
But Iran claims the drone was in its airspace and released this video of the rocket that it says shot it down. The commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guard said downing the drone tells the U.S. Iran's enemies will be destroyed. But despite the video and that fiery rhetoric, the president seemed not to take the bait.
I find it hard to believe it was intentional. It could have been somebody who was loose and stupid that did it.
It's a clear signal Trump doesn't want a war, says this analyst.
He's aware of the slippery slope to war. I think he's shown signs of wanting to avoid it. He's been begging for the Iranians to come back to the negotiating table.
Talks, though, may not satisfy hawkish Republicans.
We're not going to let them disrupt navigation of the seas, attack our allies and U.S. interests without paying a price. So if they're itching for a fight, they're going to get one.
But Democrats are urging caution.
How we go forward from here has to be strategic and smart.
The drone dispute comes after the U.S. accused Iran of attacking oil tankers. The U.S. also ordered an additional 1,000 troops to the Middle East earlier this week. Iran, meanwhile, says it will ignore the enriched uranium stockpile limit set in the 2015 nuclear pact, the deal the U.S. pulled out of last year. Before hosting a briefing for congressional leaders this afternoon, President Trump was asked what, if any, action the U.S. would take. He simply said, "You'll find out." Ellen Morrow, CBC News, Washington.
Instability in places like the Middle East helps drive refugee numbers higher. On this World Refugee Day, about 70 million people are displaced, often spending years marooned in camps. Margaret Evans is in Lebanon with a look at a program trying to change that.
The simplest of rituals, but one made precious as a family prepares to part ways. In the coming weeks, Anas Nabulsi will be leaving for Canada with his wife Mara and their baby Mahmoud. A Syrian refugee, Nabulsi came to Lebanon with his parents in 2013.
We actually lost a lot of people, not just friends.
He left just short of earning his degree in mechanical engineering, and he spent the intervening years imagining a different future for himself and his family. There are 1 million refugees in tiny Lebanon, but they can still feel invisible, unseen. Now, an NGO called Talent Beyond Boundaries is trying to shine a light in their direction, matching up skilled refugees with employers looking to hire professionals abroad.
There was kind of this assumption that they're uneducated and, have zero use to society, which we proved through that talent catalog, which is just absolutely incorrect.
They created a database of some 10,000 resumes gathered from the refugee populations of Jordan and Lebanon. That's how a company in Niagara Falls looking for a highly qualified tool and die specialist found Anas Nabulsi. The president, Bob Collier, even flew over for the interview. And so the deal was sealed, and Mahmoud has just passed the medical he needs for his Canadian visa, the aid agency partnering with governments like Canada to help clear any red tape.
This is after 1.5 years.
The pain of Syria still lies heavy on Nabulsi's heart, the family's old neighborhood a ruin, and his parents will stay in Lebanon, a hard goodbye. But there is also a hello for this young family on the horizon.
The most important thing, I think, is the job. We have the job, then everything will become easy. I really want to contribute something to Canada.
He is only the second candidate to be hired in Canada under this program, but it is a path that advocates hope might one day be well worn. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Zahle, Lebanon.
Some of the other stories we're following tonight on The National, including a major data breach from inside North America's biggest federation of credit unions.
Sensitive information that has been leaked from our organization.
That sensitive information belongs to the 2.9 million members of Quebec-based Desjardins. It includes names, addresses, birth dates, and social insurance numbers. But it wasn't a hack, rather an employee who shared the information. He's been fired and arrested by police. Those affected will get a 12-month credit monitoring plan and be reimbursed for any loss.
Yeas pour 49-49. Nays contre 46.
The motion is adopted.
A bill banning oil tankers along BC's northern coast has narrowly passed the Senate. Bill C-48 will now proceed to royal assent and become law. In 1972, the federal government decided to ban tanker traffic from the northern tip of the Vancouver Island to the Alaska border, but there was never legislation to make it formal. Tributes were paid in Ottawa today for BC Conservative MP Mark Warawa. The 69-year-old died this morning after a battle with pancreatic cancer.
Warawa was a dear friend of mine.
If there was an award for the kindest MP in this House, I'm guessing he would have won that award.
In his farewell address to the House of Commons last month, Warwa called for more Canadians to have access to palliative care. He also urged his fellow MPs to take care of their bodies and stressed the importance of spending time with family. Elections Canada is scrapping a big part of its own Get Out the Vote campaign just 4 months before Canadians go to the polls. It had hoped celebrities could help encourage young people to sign up. Instead, it's defending itself against accusations of political bias. Salima Shivji explains.
What up, everyone? It's your girl, Lily. Hi, I'm Elle Mills. Pleasure to meet you.
That's the kind of energy Elections Canada wanted to tap into, with its plan to hire famous young Canadians to convince others to register to vote. Olympic champions, TV personalities, and musicians, 13 of them, picked and vetted by Elections Canada with the help of 2 external agencies. But before the project even got off the ground, Elections Canada is giving up.
I was not satisfied that I had the right assurances that some of these influencers may be perceived as being partisan.
Here's his issue. While vetting the influencers, Elections Canada found previous online activity from more than one of them that raised questions about bias, but they won't say who.
Are you registered to vote at your current address?
So the planned video in English and French has been scrapped, but the rest of the campaign will launch next week as planned.
Order on both sides of the House.
This is a win for the Conservatives, who had pounced on the influencers' plan, accusing the Liberals of interference.
Why doesn't the Prime Minister just admit that he is using his power and influence in this latest stunt to stack the deck and rig the next election?
Under a law passed by the previous Tory government, Elections Canada was not allowed to promote voting. But the Liberals reversed that, a move that angered the Conservatives.
They said it was an influencers campaign. And one word that should never exist with an impartial election body is the word influence. Their job is not to influence. It's to tell people where, when, and how to vote.
The Minister of Democratic Institutions says the decision to create and subsequently scrap the video was Election Canada's alone, while the agency says it will continue with its mandate to try and get young people to the polls. But first, it's trying to get back some of the $650,000 it dropped on the dropped video campaign. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Ottawa.
Still ahead, the House of Commons has packed up for the summer, and that means there's a lot for At Issue to unpack. And our series on climate change continues with someone at the center of the storm.
You have to be thoughtful with climate policies, and you have to make sure that you're engaging in Canadians and doing it in a way that people have good jobs.
Our conversation with the Minister of the Environment is next.
With a ballpoint pen. We'll find out later. Take a close look as I sign my signature. Here's how it works. The mechanics are fairly simple. It involves a free-rolling ball housed in the socket at the tip. It works pretty much the way that a roll-on deodorant does. The ball is about 1 millimeter in diameter and is made of steel or some kind of strong synthetic material. If we look at the container, we find that the ink moves downward due to the pull of gravity. It lubricates the ball, and the ball then transfers the ink onto the surface of the paper. Fluids have varying properties that can be observed when you try to pour them. Water. One property, viscosity, is the measurable resistance to flow. Water has a low viscosity. It pours easily. Molasses has a higher viscosity. And with a very high viscosity, silicone putty. The viscosity of these fluids can be altered by changing their temperature. But ballpoint pen ink is a different kind of fluid. It's what's known as a non-Newtonian fluid. In non-Newtonian fluids, viscosity is changed not by temperature, but by applying a shearing force. Shearing is an expression that's used to indicate that pressure is being applied to the fluid. If shearing causes the viscosity to increase, the fluid is said to be shear thickening. When I apply pressure or shearing force to a mixture of cornstarch and water, the viscosity increases. Ballpoint pen ink is the opposite to shear thickening. It is shear thinning or thixotropic. Shearing decreases the viscosity of the fluid. So when you're not writing, The high viscosity of the ink prevents it from running out of the pen. When you begin to write, the pressure on the fluid decreases its viscosity, it thins, and it flows easily. So as your pen moves across the page, it captures your thoughts or your signature. Next time you're writing with your ballpoint pen and someone asks you what you're doing, tell them you're decreasing the viscosity of a thixotropic fluid by shearing it. That, of course, is explaining to them how your ballpoint pen works.
We're continuing tonight with the CBC News Climate Change series in our backyard. The impacts we're feeling now, the consequences to come, how it's reshaping our economy, and how we are responding. And it's been quite a week. On Monday, Parliament declared a national climate emergency. On Tuesday, the Liberal cabinet approved the Trans Mountain Pipeline expansion. Yesterday, Andrew Scheer released his environmental plan. And today, Alberta filed a court challenge to the federal carbon tax. Clearly, the issue is front and center with all of you. So a good time to speak with Catherine McKenna, the minister responsible for environment and climate change. Nice to see you, Minister.
Great to be on your show, Rosie.
Okay, so we released this poll earlier in the week. I'm not sure if you caught it, but it showed that Canadians are concerned about climate change, but they don't really want to pay for it. In fact, they don't even want to pay more than they would pay for a Netflix subscription. So given that, what do you think Canadians are telling you about your carbon tax?
Look, so when I talk to Canadians, they are worried about climate change. They want us to be ambitious in how we act, but of course they want life to be affordable and they want to have good jobs. And so that's what we've always been doing in terms of how we tackle climate change. So we put a price on pollution. Fortunately, conservative politicians want to make it free to pollute, and we're giving money back. So 80% of families are better off, especially low-income, middle-income families. We're phasing out coal, but we're ensuring a just transition for workers and communities. We're investing in energy efficiency so we can help businesses, schools, hospitals, cities save money and also do right by the planet.
Okay, so then explain to Canadians how buying and expanding a pipeline fits in with all the things you just said there.
So I think first of all, it's important to understand why we believe it's in the national interest. Right now, we're getting a discount on our energy. We have one customer, the United States, and I think we would all agree after NAFTA that that's not a great idea.
But you would agree, Minister, that the best way to keep climate change under control would have been to just say no to that pipeline entirely. Then you wouldn't have had to do all those other things that you're talking about.
Well, that's not true, because it would still, we're seeing that people are now shipping, looking at being shipped by rail, which is less safe. I think people could agree, it's not going to help the environment or the economy if you're not getting a fair price for your natural resources during a transition. But my focus is really on how do we make a huge difference? And over 4 years, we have an ambitious plan. It gets us 3/4 of the way there to a 2030 target. And that doesn't include all the new measures we're doing.
You said that it gets you 3/4 of the way there. 3/4 of the way there is not there. As you know, you're 79 megatons short. Andrew Scheer said yesterday, we have the best chance of getting there. How will you make up the difference for that 79 megatons? Because at this stage, the UN doesn't think you can do it, and I'm not sure what you have up your sleeve to indicate that you will.
Well, so there's a number of measures that aren't included to make up the 79 megatons, as you said. We've been very transparent about this. Our plan is out there, and that includes, as I say, tackling plastic pollution. That includes, we announced we're doubling nature. We're making investments to help people, afford electric vehicles. We have
those things will make up that difference?
Rosie, this is a 2030 target. As you know, and you've been in politics, you've watched a lot of politics for a long time, and we now have conservatives who have a make-believe plan because I don't think they really think that climate change is serious. We had a climate emergency motion in the House. They voted against it.
Sure,
and
but the next day you approved expanding a pipeline. So that's worth reminding people as well. Your plan right now goes to 2022. Are you telling me that after 2022 the price on carbon doesn't go up? It just stays where it is?
Well, so let's be clear, this is a plan negotiated with provinces and territories over a year. There's no plan for the price to go up. This is what we would negotiate with provinces and territories. And we will have a plan for the next 4 years. It's like the rest of the world. The Paris Agreement requires that every country improve and become more ambitious every 4 years.
Sure.
And so,
But
first of all, you got to do...
The price will have to go up, won't it? If you're trying to meet those targets for 2030, I don't know how you would just keep the price of carbon the same in 2022.
But we've made a decision that we're not just going to do a price on pollution. It represents about 20% of our emissions reduction, but we're investing in clean technology. In the solutions that we're investing in, they're going to pay huge dividends.
Okay, I got to leave it there, Minister. I do appreciate your time. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Straight ahead on The National, from the Conservative Party's climate plan to the Ontario cabinet shuffle. Lots to talk about on At Issue tonight. We've got a gang of 4. And later, Power to the People. We visit the Manitoba First Nation that will soon have the biggest solar farm in the province.
This is the technology that really embodies a lot of our old values and our relationships with the land. So it's really just a perfect fit.
In the 70s, who's causing all the excitement?
Wayne.
Wayne who?
Wong.
Why?
Because I think he's really good.
I have to admit that Wayne Wong has to be a favorite of mine.
Oh, I came over to see Wayne Wong. I've been watching him around the slopes the last couple of years, and he's brought this type of sport along quite a bit, and the kids are learning it. A lot of other people are learning it, too.
The sport is a new craze called hot dog skiing, and a 23-year-old from Vancouver is its biggest star.
Wayne Wong is an unusual boy. I think he has real star charisma. He's a very natural boy. He's a good, healthy, outdoor Canadian type. And the Americans love him. He's just charming and unpretentious and uncomplicated, a thoroughgoing competitor, and yet a non-compulsive one.
Competitor enough to overdo it in practice and nearly wreck an ankle 2 days before the opening competition in the professional series.
You know, it's epitomized by the phrase, get it on. You know, let it all hang out. It's the young generation doing their thing.
360 outrigger into a killer kick.
I don't know that Wayne will ever be a superhero, but he'll be sort of the Huck Finn hero.
But when Huck Finn turns pro and the pressures close in, what happens to the spirit of do your own thing?
Right now, I'm getting a little bit uptight about it because they're putting a little bit too many rules down. We're freestyling, I think. You just got to go out and do your own thing without people telling you what to do and where to do it.
throughout the NAFTA negotiations, which were contentious at times, absolutely, we remained focused on the things that really matter, and because of that, we've come through it with a very strong and positive relationship with the United States, and indeed are moving forward on the ratification of an accord that will secure this important relationship for years to come.
Another trip to Washington for the Prime Minister, this time ratifying the new NAFTA deal and tensions with China top of mind. So did both leaders get what they wanted out of that? The House of Commons is now adjourned for summer break. And thankfully it's Thursday and time for At Issue. And because this is one of our last ones, everyone is here with me in Toronto tonight. Chantal Hébert, Andrew Coyne, Althea Raj, and Paul Wells. So good to see you all. Thank you for coming. I appreciate it. Let's start with that meeting between Trump and Trudeau. A lot has happened if you think about where we were this time last year between these two. And it does seem like we've reached some sort of maybe détente. I don't want to speak too soon, but Andrew, why don't you start? What did you make of, or where would you say the relationship, I guess, is at this point?
The relationship is several months before an election. And I think that's mostly what this is about. Ostensibly it was about, and probably some extent was about Trudeau giving some support on NAFTA, Trump giving some support on these Canadian citizens held in China. But I think a large part of this is not only the Prime Minister reminding everyone he's the Prime Minister, he gets to go and meet with foreign leaders, but I think giving a sense of, okay, the relationship is under control, it's in relatively stable condition. Canadians don't like Trump. They don't want our Prime Ministers to be cozy with any president, particularly this one, but they do want to know that the relationship is being managed professionally, and I think this was designed to convey that message.
Just say more stability, that's a good idea, I guess.
Yes, and on the handling of the NAFTA file and the Trump relationship, I think that the Prime Minister is not totally bulletproof, but pretty much because of the coalition he built. It's really hard from the left or the right to shoot at him when serious people on the left and the right believe that this new NAFTA deal is a good thing. On the other hand, I think President Trump does want Congress to sign off on his deal and probably believes that Justin Trudeau is an asset and talking to the Democrats on that. I also suspect, but that's just me, that maybe Trump likes Trudeau a bit better now that Trudeau is not so high on his popularity chart.
Paul?
You're right, it's been a heck of a year. They've gone from kind of a bromance to really about a year ago, the extraordinary fireworks around the Charlevoix summit. And now something more like what presidents usually think of when they think of the Canadian Prime Minister, which is, oh yes, the Canadians.
We'll let them in.
Yeah. I do think that Justin Trudeau does not rate very high on the president's list of biggest problems, and he was happy for a relatively easy morning at the office. Not as easy as when he stays home to watch TV and tweet, but close. And I don't think a lot of major files got advanced in important ways, but he got an engagement from the president to take the China file to Xi Jinping, and they've had fantastic meetings. They've had really awful meetings. This was somewhere in between.
Althea?
Well, I agree with basically everything that was said. I think that they both need each other, and that's why we're seeing what we're seeing. But I will note that there was still a moment during their meeting in the Oval Office where the president couldn't help but needle the Prime Minister. Oh, you're having trouble get a meeting with the Chinese president? Oh, right. Are you, Justin? Well, if you need help and you ask me, I'll help you. Yeah. You know, I don't think he really needed to phrase the request in that way, but he just couldn't help himself. Obviously, I think the Liberal government is playing it pretty safe, to Chantal's point, but they are also a very... they don't want to be seen as moving the yardstick too quickly. And while it's very unlikely that this gets done before there is an election, the word has gone out to members of Parliament that if a deal is done in Washington, they will be coming back to the House of Commons to vote for this thing.
Okay, I'm not going to play the clip because I want to have more time of you talking and less of clips. Andrew Scheer's big climate plan announcement, it was long awaited, many pages, as you pointed out many times in your column. But did it do what it was supposed to do? Show that the party is taking it seriously and that it's something that is credible, that Canadians can buy into? Chantal, you start.
I don't think so. I think it fell well short of that. And today, some conservatives were trying to compare yesterday's plan to Trudeau's launch of this environmental platform in 2015. Well, the fact is that the discussion has evolved since then, and the yardstick has moved. So it might have compared okay with the Liberal platform of 2015, but it looked like nothing happened over the past 4 years, and this was a plan that had more blanks to fill than answers to questions. So it doesn't really qualify as a solid alternative plan.
What do you think?
On the merits, absolutely. It's ridiculous. It's not even a plan. There's no targets, there's no standards, there's no costing. It's just...
Well, they say that's going to come at some point.
Well, maybe we'll see. But it's also taking a particularly high-cost route to it. So if you were analyzing it as policy, it's ridiculous. If you're analyzing it as it's a plan that he can wave at a particular segment of the electorate that doesn't really care all that much about climate change, but wants to know that people are somewhere in the ballpark of reasonable people who don't deny that it's happening, but don't want to pay very much for it, all those kinds of messages. So it says to some voters, it says, I'm just sensible enough to do something about this. And to other voters, it can go, oh, he's really not going to do anything about it, I don't need to worry. And that segment of voters, those two segments, are the ones that he needs to reach to get that kind of center-right voter. People who aren't necessarily as solid on the environment as maybe they should be, but they want a balancing of the environment and the economy.
Or even those people that in our poll this week that showed that you know we want you to do something, we just don't want to pay very much for it. We don't want to pay more than Netflix for it.
Even though they will be paying, but
that's another What did you think?
If you care about the environment, you will not be voting for this plan. But if you want to have a party that signals that it cares about the environment, then possibly you might vote for the Conservatives. I think it is reassuring to a lot of candidates who are knocking on doors in Quebec or in the GTA. At least they have something to talk about. And so check that is done. But Andrew is right, it doesn't have any targets. It doesn't say even what provinces this would apply to. They spend so many pages slagging the Liberals for their plan for letting large emitters off the hook, and their own plan leaves large emitters off the hook for precisely the exact same reasons. It doesn't say how much companies would have to pay. It doesn't say how many emissions they would be reduced, or even a target on how many emissions would be reduced. In fact, I think most people looking at this would look at Harper's plan from 2007 and say that was more ambitious. So while there's a lot of stuff in the back pages, interesting policies, home retrofit, which is really expensive, not sure how much bang for your buck you get there. In terms of policy, if this is your issue, well, you're probably voting Green or another political party, but nobody here is going to find perhaps what they were looking for.
So why bother then? I sort of wonder. I mean,
for the candidates at the door.
To fill a blank.
To fill in the blank.
The Liberals used to say that John Chrétien had his campaign team write a red book for 1992 so that he could say on the campaign trail, I've got a plan, you read it. It was almost the physical personification of what strategists call a shield. This is the same, but there's a broader thing. We've seen example after example recently of governments that come to power without a real plan because they built their whole campaign on how am I going to win the election, not how am I going to govern. If Andrew Scheer becomes prime minister, he will find that his environmental policy is of no help to him. And as Doug Ford could tell him, that turns out to be a problem if you do get elected.
He's got no mandate.
Okay, so speaking of Doug Ford, let me play this clip because this was a huge cabinet shuffle a year into governing, and I guess was intended to some way reset the agenda. Here's what Doug Ford had to say about it today.
Continuous improvement, it starts with me. Every one of our cabinet ministers, I feel, have done a good job, but we can always do a better job. I can always do a better job as well, and we're going to.
So we need to go a little faster for this round, but I don't know, what does that tell us about a government and how they are doing to have to do something like that so soon? How did you read it, Paul?
Well, it suggests they get that they're in really bad trouble.
Sure.
It suggests their own polling numbers are not rosier than what we're seeing in the newspapers. I have some advice to these new ministers who've been promoted, Rod Phillips and some of the others. Nobody who got demoted for doing something that the Premier's office didn't like. They all got demoted for cheerfully doing what everyone thought was an excellent idea, which means they need to stop listening to the Premier's office. They need to act like cabinet ministers. They have as much experience, if not more, than the people who are trying to tell them how to act. We need to see judgment brought to bear in their public statements and also in private behind closed doors, because going out and executing what the Senate tells you to do hasn't worked well.
I just don't see that happening.
A premier in a major province that fires a finance minister after a single year will inevitably, if not shatter, at least shake confidence in business circles that this is a serious government. When you have a premier that you're not too sure about, you tend to look to the finance minister to see if there's an adult in the room. Well, whatever you may think of the minister who was demoted today, the fact is that I couldn't find any examples of a government in a major province in its first year firing the finance minister.
Someone said to me this week, no, it was a Liberal, but someone said, I don't think they can actually get it back. They've lost their credibility, and I'm not even sure they can get it back. Is this enough to do that?
Well, this plus several years between now and the next election, so you never know. But look, the problem isn't Vic Fideli. The problem is the premier. The minister who needs to be shuffled is the one who's actually doing the shuffling. Everybody knew this.
I know, he's seen, but I don't think he's going.
Everybody knew this beforehand. We knew that he was a rolling train wreck. He was able to sort of fluke his way into the leadership of the party. He won the election not because of him, but in spite of him. But they're stuck with him. And our system, unfortunately, gives all the power to one person. And this person in particular has very poor judgment, is demonstrated on multiple occasions. And they're a year into their term, and they're in a terrible state, and it's mostly because of his decisions.
Although the former Liberal strategist Scott Reid, I saw today, tweeted, this is to try and distract you, but what it might end up doing is stoking disloyalty. And you wonder whether people will be upset that they got, pushed and then start to sharpen knives and do the rest of it. I don't know.
Honestly, I think from the start, this government could have used more disloyalty.
To him, you mean?
People need to say. People need to say to people, "Look, you just gave me a stupid idea, and I won't do it."
Yeah.
And on firing finance minister, I could think of one government that we all work close to that could have stood to get rid of its finance minister before now, in Ottawa.
He's just going to leave that out there. You get the last word on that.
I'm just going to end by saying I think that what they tried to do is basically change the spokespeople. And they have put in some, like Stephen Lecce is not very experienced, brand rookie new MP, but did communications work for Harper and was pretty good at it. But the problem is not a spokesperson, the problem is the policy. And so hopefully they have a few months. The legislature's not sitting to get briefed on their documents. Maybe they come back
and the problem is
something else in November.
The problem, to come back to a point we were making earlier, is he ran on a platform of saying, we won't have to make any cuts.
He said
nobody would lose their job.
No one will lose their job. So people, I guess, bought that. They shouldn't have, but they did. And so when you then come in and make a bunch of cuts and fire a bunch of people, no kidding, people are going to be mad.
I mean, if the Liberals could organize a putsch that was almost successful against Jean Chrétien, who knew what he was doing and who had won a majority for them for the third time in a row, I don't discount the possibility that this could get even messier and that knives will be out for the Premier.
Okay, let's leave it there. Thanks, everybody. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to At Issue, the podcast, for extra content. This week, we're going to talk about some reporting that my colleague Evan Dyer did around these new allegations about things Conservative MP Michael Cooper said. Look for it on iTunes, in your major podcast app, our website, cbcnews.ca/The National. More on our climate change series in Our Backyard is just ahead. A Manitoba First Nation has put something quite extraordinary in theirs.
That's the way of the future, as they say, and it's going to benefit everybody.
It is the largest solar farm in the province, and that's next.
I'll tell you about punk rock. Punk rock is a word used by dilettantes and heartless manipulators about music that takes up the energies and the bodies and the hearts and the souls and the time and the minds of young men who give what they have to it and give everything they have to it. And it's a term that's based on contempt. It's a term that's based in fashion, style, elitism, Satanism, and everything that's rotten about rock and roll. I don't know Johnny Rotten, but but I'm sure he puts as much blood and sweat into what he does as Sigmund Freud did.
Johnny Rotten does. What I can't figure is whether you're acting against that label. You don't like the label.
I'm not acting.
No, I know. Reacting against the label then. Responding angrily to the label. You don't like the label. Is that right?
I don't like to hear it come out of someone's mouth.
Okay. Where do you like to hear it come out of? Now, listen, tell me seriously. I have never seen you perform, but I've read reviews about vomiting on the stage, about sticking pencils in your flesh, about bleeding lips, and about all those things. I want to know the purpose behind that.
The purpose or the reason?
The purpose or the reason?
I vomited. I was ill. I'm not sorry I was ill. Everyone gets ill sometimes, and I was ill one evening, and as I felt that I was going to vomit anyway, I decided I may as well do it with some style. So I did it something like this.
Actually, the Prime Minister of Canada
I've never stuck a pencil in my flesh.
Is that right?
These come mostly from my fingernails.
But you do mutilate and scratch yourself, do you? On the stage? These are innocent questions. I have not seen you perform. I've just read a great deal about you. And I want to know why.
Why? Because what sounds to you like a big load of trashy old noise is, in fact, the brilliant music of a genius, myself. And that music is so powerful that it's quite beyond my control. And when I'm in the grips of it, I don't feel pleasure and I don't feel pain, either physically or emotionally. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Yeah. Have you ever felt like that when you couldn't feel anything and you didn't want to either? You know? Like that.
Some critics.
Do you understand what I'm saying, sir?
I am trying. You don't have to call me sir.
No, I don't have to.
A celebration of excellence.
Oh, yeah.
It's an evening of music, pride, and inspiration. The 2019 Inspire Awards for Indigenous Achievement. Sunday at 8 on CBC.
I'm Jamie Poisson. Tomorrow on CBC's daily news podcast Front Burner, we'll talk about the billions of dollars in corporate taxes that Canada has not collected and why corporations are getting away with this. You can subscribe to Front Burner wherever you get your podcasts.
The New York Knicks select R.J. Barrett from Toronto and Duke University.
Well, not a surprise, but pretty awesome. Canadian basketball star R.J. Barrett off to New York. The Mississauga, Ontario native is the third pick in tonight's NBA draft, and Toronto's Nickeil Alexander-Walker, 17th pick, and he's headed to the New Orleans Pelicans. Tonight, Canada has a chance to set a record for players picked in a single draft from a country outside the U.S. France right now holds that honor with 5.
So time for the ball game here.
Major League Baseball could be coming back to Montreal, maybe. Don't get the tickets yet. The Tampa Bay Rays have received permission from the league to explore playing some home games in Montreal, possibly by 2023. New stadiums, though, for the cities would be an awfully big hurdle to get over. And Russia has started releasing whales being held in captivity in Russia's Far East. 10 orcas and 87 belugas were being held in very cramped conditions. The move comes after an international outcry and a petition with nearly 1.5 million signatures. The Russian government says the whales will be returned to where they were captured and released over the next 4 months. So renewables are still a small part of Canada's energy supply, but the sector out there, it's growing. And as we continue our climate change series in our backyard, the CBC's Cameron McIntosh takes us to a remote First Nation in Manitoba. The community there sees green energy's potential to help drive down carbon emissions and at the same time, make some cash.
The last panels are in,
last one here.
Final connections are about to be made. Manitoba's Fisher River Cree Nation is betting big on the sun to generate and sell power into the provincial grid.
It's a really neat project.
A project Chief David Crate says will help sustain his community's finances and combat climate change.
What is it about solar that excites you the most?
I think it's clean green energy. And what comes out of it is, long term, is sustainable energy.
In this case, 1 megawatt, enough to power about 350 homes.
For all of its promise, solar does have some challenges. One of them is scale. It can take up a lot of room. At this latitude, to produce 1 megawatt of electricity requires more than 3,000 panels spread over 2.5 hectares.
This could be a real template for other Indigenous communities across North America.
Vancouver's W. Dusk Energy Group specializes in setting up green energy projects on First Nations. This is one of its largest projects so far.
This is the technology that really embodies a lot of our old values and our relationships with the land. So it's really just a perfect fit.
Solar is being used in some remote communities currently reliant on diesel. The hope is this can prove scale, but there are limitations. The sun doesn't shine all the time. There's also a carbon cost in producing panels. And at $2.4 million, this will take years to pay for itself. It contributes less than 1/5,000th to the overall grid. Still, there are tangible benefits to the community, including jobs. Candace Sinkler helped build the farm.
That's the way of the future, as they say, and it's going to benefit everybody.
I think it creates a sense of pride for our members, knowing that we have this particular development.
Do you see solar sustaining this community at some point?
Actually, solar, and we're looking at battery storage as a component, but we're also possibly looking at small wind. Long-term goal is to basically, we want to power the community up and create our own utility.
Next month, they'll flip the switch. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Fisher River Cree Nation.
That's pretty cool. We'll have more on our climate change series in the coming days and weeks, and you can explore the impact climate change is already having on Canadians in depth on our interactive website. Go to cbc.ca/in-our-backyard. Duncan McHugh continues our series tomorrow with a story about battling climate change in the courts. Here's a preview.
From the moment these court cases are filed, they start having an impact. We've seen it in the US. We've seen it in Canada, where all of a sudden companies are now putting into their reports to shareholders, oh, you're at risk of being sued for climate change.
We are asking the authorization to do a class action.
We need huge change in the way we live. It's not only about voting, it's not only about doing political lobbying. We also need to think of other options, because so far we've somewhat failed in addressing climate change.
Just ahead, though, fans of CBC Radio's The Current said goodbye to a friend today.
And that's why I say thank you for listening to The Current. And thank you for listening to me.
After 17 years at the helm, Anna Maria Tremonti signed off, but she's not going too far. Our moment is now.
Meet David Bruff. He's the head honcho, in fact, the only honcho at Northern Access TV. He's traveling in some style from one Northern Ontario town to another, checking on his network. That's right, his network. Appropriately enough, he's playing a tune that was stolen from the Germans by the British 8th Army. You see, Bruff is also a thief, a TV-age Robin Hood, stealing from the rich and giving to the poor. Bruff has 30 TV stations, all illegal. Although he's applied, none of them are licensed by Canada's governing body, the CRTC. This is Bruff's master control, a plain old living room in Toronto. Here, without permission, Bruff records programs from every TV network, Canadian and American. He constructs videotapes that are 10 hours long. The tapes are sent several at a time on a route that takes them from one station to another. And this is a Bruff TV station, a jerry-built system of gutted tape recorders, pieces of plastic plumbing pipe, paper clips, epoxy, and a tangle of wires. The TV signal is beamed out of closets, basements, fruit cellars, and bedrooms by a tiny transmitter that will only carry the signal 5 miles or so. Run-ins with government are nothing new. You see, Brough first wanted to give his system to the government-funded CBC.
I pestered them enough, they finally agreed to allow me to do a demonstration of the system. The thing was that the engineers in the CBC, they were the ones who turned thumbs down on the idea. So here, in a sense, it was categorized very neatly by a CBC engineer who told me to take my toys and go home. In many respects, I use the other analogy of if a person is starving, that because you can't give them a T-bone steak dinner, that you will let them starve because you've only got a hamburger for them.
This is one of those starving communities, Wawa, a mining town on Lake Superior. The only theater closes on Tuesday nights. The only bowling alley went bankrupt and is now a food store. It's too cold and snowy to do anything outside. And until Brough came to town, there were 12 channels of snow and the CBC. Everyone in town had to chip in to pay the $5,000 setup fee. And now, Wawa has its own TV bingo every Tuesday. Cards sell in town at 4 for $1. That pays the station manager's salary. The rest, a modest sum, goes to Brough. The people love it, flaws and all. Brough's service has survived exactly because it's popular. That same popularity thwarted the RCMP and the Department of Communications when they tried to shut down his first illegal station in Pickle Lake.
There was an interesting confrontation between a few dozen miners who were down at the local bars and found out that this was happening and showed up on the scene, and they politely informed the people there that if they tried to take away their TV station, they probably wouldn't get back out of town.
In Wawa, he does a talk show to field complaints.
Remember, I haven't been around here for several months, and I don't know exactly what's happening, so this is your opportunity to clue me in. Hello, are you there?
Yes?
Go ahead, please.
I was just wondering...
He's told too many programs that are on the CBC are on his station. The kids want more cartoons, the grown-ups more movies.
I'm trying to force the private side of the industry to participate in this venture financially as well.
A celebration of excellence.
Oh, yeah.
It's an evening of music, pride, and inspiration. The 2019 Inspire Awards for Indigenous Achievement. Sunday at 8 on CBC.
Do you really think the legend is true about a secret lab under this room?
For 17 years, Anna Maria Tremonti has covered current affairs on CBC Radio's The Current, from war to climate change and pretty much everything in between. But today was her last day at the helm. It was a chance for her to say goodbye and others to say thanks, and that farewell is our moment.
This is a special edition of The Current and my final edition of The Current. We have been able to tackle those kinds of stories at a time of day when people would go, we're not so sure about that. And you know what? The listeners have said thank you for that. And that's really been important to me.
Because that's the gift of Anna Maria Tremonti.
I have been so lucky. I have made friends. I have learned so much. Some days I would get stories and go, what is this about? I would learn so much. And I love you all.
From all of us at the team, we are a big team. We've been a big team for 17 years, but you've been our glue. All of us really, really do love you and call you a friend, and you're a mentor to so many of us.
I know there are a whole lot of you who care about the detail, about the truth, about compassion, and about others. And that's why I say thank you for listening to The Current. And thank you for listening to me.
So get this, over those 17 years, Anna Maria did 13,385 interviews, and as well as being a friend and mentor, she's an excellent journalist who's launching some podcasts in the fall. That is The National for Thursday, June 20th. Good night.